This was the kind of Gaza that existed until 1948. Israel created the Gaza Strip in 1948. And this is an important fact, because when Israel started the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, that, as May mentioned, ended with the expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians and the destruction of more than 500 Palestinian villages and most of the Palestinian towns, it was able to push Palestinians to the north, to Lebanon and Syria, and to push Palestinians to the east, to the West Bank and Jordan. But they were not able to push the Palestinians in the south to Egypt. Egypt refused to allow Palestinians to enter the Sinai Peninsula. So what could Israel do? He didn't want the Palestinians. So the leader of Israel, Ben-Gurion, decided we can give up a small part of Palestine in order to push hundreds of thousands of Palestinians into a strip. And you could look at the border of the strip. It's like a ruler. It's a rectangular. It's an artificial rectangular that Israel created. At first 650 square kilometers. Then the Israelis thought they were giving too much space to the refugees, and they cut it into 350 square kilometers, making it one of the densest refugee communities in the world. But the whole idea was to create, intentionally, a huge refugee camp so that demographically, the Palestinians south of Jaffa, south of Halil, would not be included in the Jewish state. And this was unfortunately done with the agreement of the Egyptian government at the time, the royal Egyptian government, because it was part of the armistice agreement between Israel and Egypt that was signed in January 1949. What is very relevant to what happens on the 7th of October is the last group of people who were pushed into the new refugee camp that Israel created in 1948 called the Gaza Strip. These were the people who lived very near the strip, but were not inside the strip. On the ruins of their villages, Israel built the very settlements that were attacked by the Hamas on the 7th of October. These were the people who were dwellers of villages that have been wiped out in the months of November, December 1948. One of them, Majdal, even continued until 1950. And I have found in the Israeli archive an order called Order Number 40 from the 25th of November 1948. And that order enlists the names of these Palestinian villages that are gone. And the order says very clearly, like so many other orders during the Nakba, occupy the villages, burn the houses, and expel the people to Gaza. So this is the first generation of the people of Gaza. Yes, of course, the young people who came into the Operation Al-Aqsa flood were third generation of refugees. But they were very much aware of the history of their grandparents and their parents. So this is the main, I think, historical context we should tell people about. But this doesn't end there, as you know. After 1948, and especially after 1967, the fate of the people who live in that huge refugee strip that Israel created is closely associated with the fate of another geopolitical unit that was created in 1948. That did not exist, people don't know it, did not exist before 1948, the West Bank. The West Bank was, it's not a term that anybody knew about before 1948. There was no West Bank. Jenin and Haifa were organically connected. Nablus and Jaffa were organically connected. Jerusalem, the hinterland of Jerusalem, were what we call today, the West Bank. It was all organically one country, one society. Family connection, tradition, aspirations, were all part of it. Now, after 1967, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip shared a similar fate, being under a brutal Israeli occupation, ruled by a military administration that was replaced in 1981 with a civil administration which was as brutal as the military administration, violating every law we know in international law, violating every basic rights of Palestinians who live both in the West Bank in Jerusalem and in the Gaza Strip.